many people applied for tickets. A scant few thousand compared to that applicant pool got into the arena. NBC's Lee Cowan was inside for all of it. Lee, I understand. Oh, I'm sorry. We do not have communications yet with Lee Cowan. However, Nancy Giles has been watching it all with us. She was discussing it with us before and as we got underway. Nancy, I'm curious to hear your take on what we just witnessed.
Well, Brian, I agree with everything that Lester said. I thought it really kind of completed the full gamut of expectations. It was very respectful. It was very much like a memorial, but there was a real sense of the person. And I have to say, just remembering all kinds of memories of Michael Jackson while I was listening to the services. I'm a fifth of 7 children. I'm about Michael Jackson's age, and we grew up loving the Jackson 5. And I was thinking of all the times that my 2 sisters and I would talk about who would sing the different parts in the songs, and there was always this big fight about who was going to be Michael. Michael was the key one that everybody wanted to be. I'm just so struck suddenly by the fact that he was this human being with brothers and sisters, with a family. That unbelievably touching moment at the very end where his daughter just broke down. It just, you can't help but have it tug at your heart. And I thought it could be, this day could go a lot differently, and I thought in the end it was sort of the perfect mix of entertainment and also a mourning of the loss of somebody that was indeed, as Berry Gordy said, the greatest entertainer of all time, I do think.
Nancy, it was interesting you just mentioned that, because before the broadcast I mentioned the kind of heartbreaking comment by Joe Jackson, daughter Paris's grandfather, Michael's father, that they hadn't been socialized. They hadn't, the Jackson kids hadn't been raised around kids, and yet for that wrenching few moments there, she seemed like a kid.
Utterly normal, very much like a child who's lost her dad. And I mean, we don't know. That's the other thing, Brian, that's so odd about this whole thing. You grow up with somebody in the media like this, and you really do feel like they're part of your family. I mean, there's something about his life that in so many ways paralleled my family's lives and so many other people's lives that are around his age, and you feel like you know him and his family, and you feel like you have a right to your opinions and your suspicions and your love or dislikes and whatnot. It's the strangest feeling to feel like you're looking at somebody that's very familiar and at the same time very much a mystery. And it's been an amazing afternoon to just watch this, really.
Nancy Giles, thank you on behalf of all of us for being along for our coverage. I won't get to personally see you or thank you on this trip, but I appreciate you being along and your observations from this. Also watching it all day, a guy who's covered various aspects of this story as it has unfolded for NBC News. NBC News correspondent Josh Menkowitz at our Los Angeles bureau not far from here. And Josh, what struck you watching this today?
Well, you know, there wasn't any rehearsal time. This was an event that was sort of made up on the fly over the last few days, involving a lot of people, a lot of live performances, and, you know, there were a couple of fits and starts, but overall, I really thought it came off beautifully. I mean, I think it was exactly the kind of thing that its organizers would have hoped it would have been, and I think that, you know, people watching across the country and across the globe probably saw that. I was also struck by the sort of cohesiveness and single message today of the Jackson family. You know, this is a family about which there's been a lot written, a lot said. They've not always been on the same page. In fact, there were, you know, a number of times when they were famously not singing off the same sheet of music. But today I thought they really were, and I thought that was great. You know, there can be some discussion about whether or not, you know, Michael Jackson, who deliberately fed stories about himself to the tabloids, really was as persecuted as some people would have you believe. But I was struck by how the family really sort of seemed to be speaking with the same voice. And, you know, there's almost no family in America that has as many people claiming to speak for it, as many official spokesmen. There's a new one, you know, every couple of days in the world of Michael Jackson. I thought that Brooke Shields was somebody who you could clearly tell from the way she was talking about him, from the anecdotes that she cited. She was somebody who really did know him. There's a lot of people out there who claim to know him, but clearly she really did. I thought that was tremendously poignant.
Yeah, I agree, and as Lester Holt put it, a very humanizing moment in today's proceedings. Josh Minkowitz, good points all. Thanks for being a part of this. Mike Taibbi has had a moment to talk to some of the people who are filing out now. We had a prayer at the very end of the service. Mike, you're down in the crowd apparently.
Yeah, you know, Brian, just before this started, after 10 o'clock, which was supposed to be the start time, I looked back at the Staples and there were people running for the entrance, and among them were TJ and Cheryl, who are Los Angelinos. You guys were late, but you made it. What did you think? TJ, what did you think of it?
You know what? It was a great show. I think that a lot of the people there touched a lot of things about Michael Jackson, you know, being the greatest entertainer, being very charitable, you know, with all his donations and just healing the world. I thought it was a very, very good performance.
Yeah, that was the first really big, huge round of applause when it was said that he was the greatest entertainer ever in the history of the world. I think everybody in that place agreed with that. The one thing everybody could be absolutely sure of.
That's true. You know what? I'm glad I was able to come today because it was actually a great show. The performances were really good. I was saddened. I even shedded a tear when Jermaine got up and sung his song, Smile. It just kind of brought a tear to my eye. But, I mean, the whole performance was really great.
Cheryl, there was a lot of that kind of subdued recognition of the backstory, that there's a